Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about a potential East Coast hurricane which is going to be impacting potentially parts of eastern New England and also southeastern parts of Canada, and maybe the storm moves westward. We'll still have to see. I have my personal cone of uncertainty track in this video, and we'll also be taking a look at what the models are showing in terms of where the storm will actually track. So let's get right into it here. Let's start off with the current National Weather Service page. We'll go from east to west this time. We have flash flood watches, tornado watches, and flash flood warnings in effect for parts of the Carolinas into Virginia, a little bit of Tennessee and Georgia as well there. So that is from Tropical Depression Sally, what was Category 2 Hurricane Sally before it made landfall into parts of Alabama there. We also have some freeze warnings in the dark blue for parts of northern Michigan and also parts of the UP of Michigan, and also for northern Maine. Now you're going to see that some of these regions, even though the surrounding regions get frost and freeze watches, some regions even to the north don't have those posted. That's because once you reach 28 degrees Fahrenheit, that once you officially reach 28 degrees Fahrenheit, your county will not get any more frost or freeze watches for the year because your growing season has ended. So if you live in somewhere where you've already reached 28 degrees Fahrenheit for the year, you're not going to get any more frost and freeze warnings for the year. We also have some frost advisories in the lighter blue for parts of northwestern Wisconsin and also for central Michigan there, and for parts of Maine. We also have some freeze watches for northwestern Maine there, where you're looking at, again, some freezing temperatures. Now, we're also looking at some smoke advisories for much of the Northwest, for parts of eastern Colorado, central California, and southern Arizona there. We also have some excessive heat warnings in effect for southwestern Arizona and also for southeastern California, and some red flag warnings for parts of Utah, Idaho, Oregon, California, and also Nevada, with some flash flood watches in effect for parts of Oregon there, because you're going to have this big system that's just been spinning out over the Pacific, kind of moving straight into parts of Oregon and Washington. So that should bring a little bit of relief. It's not going to be a lot, but it should bring a little bit of relief from the dry weather you guys have been seeing. Now, here is the 5-day graphical outlook from the National Hurricane Center. We have this area over here, which currently has, I believe, about a 60% chance of developing over the next 5 days or so. We have this red region right here, which has a high chance of developing, and this one could potentially become Wilma if this were to develop, and most of the models have this kind of looping around and then making a turn to the north and potentially impacting somewhere between Louisiana and Texas there. So that would be kind of the main area to watch. We also see, I'm kind of surprised that they actually added this on their National Hurricane Center watch page. We have an area that has I believe, a 10 or 20% chance of developing. That's off the coast of Spain. So I'm surprised they put it out. I'm surprised I wasn't even paying attention to the storm. Usually I try to focus right along the Caribbean and the East Coast. So they have picked up on this system. Right now has it currently has tropical storm force winds, just doesn't have any tropical storm force or tropical storm characteristics. So if it does develop those, potentially that's where we get Wilma from, although it looks very unlikely. We have post-tropical depression Sally and also Hurricane Teddy and tropical depression Vicky right here. Teddy is the one that we're going to be talking about in today's video, that will move up the East Coast offshore and then potentially make its way into the Gulf of Maine, or potentially somewhere between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. So we'll talk about that in today's video. Now, here is tropical or Hurricane Teddy. I believe it's a Category 3, so Major Hurricane Teddy, and currently you see that well-defined eye right in the middle right here, and then we have a lot of convection with this storm, and it looks very well defined on the infrared satellite. Here is where Teddy is located at. It's at about 19 degrees north by about 53 degrees west. Now, here would be your key messages for the storm. If you would like to pause the video right here and read them, you definitely can. Now, here is the National Hurricane Center cone of uncertainty forecast for the storm. It is expected to stay Category 3 or above all the way until it hits Bermuda, and then it should weaken to probably a Category 2, Category 1, and it will then continue to move to the north and potentially make a westward turn, as many of the models are showing. Again, maximum sustained winds of 120 miles per hour, and it's only moving at 12 miles per hour over the extremely warm waters of this part of the Atlantic. So it's going to really have a lot of time to intensify before hitting Bermuda, and then we'll have to see what happens with the East Coast. Now, here would be the model guidance for the storm, and we're looking at many of these models again moving northwestward, pretty much straight northwestward, and then as it's paralleling Bermuda, making a northward turn, and we'll have to see what happens after that. Here would be the GFS tracks, and we are looking at pretty much the same story. Now here's the tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, and we're looking at generally for Bermuda, we're looking at probably a 70 to 90% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds. Here's your model intensity guidance for the storm, and most of the models have this staying as a category 3 for at least the next 5 days or so before it undergoes some weakening, just because it's going into some cooler waters. Now let's start looking at what the models are showing with this storm, because it is actually quite interesting. Now we're looking at the geopotential heights a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere, and we're looking at whether we have low pressure or high pressure in place. The low pressure indicated by the blue, so we see a large area of blue right here. That's a trough of low pressure, and in the reds and oranges, that's where we're looking at high pressure. So we see some of that over northern Europe and then stretching down into the northern Atlantic. So what I really want you guys to pay attention to is the southern end of this trough, and then here is Teddy right here. So pay attention to both of these as I move this through. We're going to look at the European for right now, and then we'll look at a couple different models. Now here would be by tonight for the most part, and then here would be by Friday night, and we're seeing this trough get disconnected from the main upper trough, which is right here. You're getting a cutoff low pressure system to kind of form from this, and it's going to start to dip further to the south. Now this is quite intriguing, and I first saw this last night, and then I checked on it this morning, still in the models, and most of the models have something similar to this, so it's definitely something we have to pay attention to. Here would be by Saturday night. You see Teddy still barreling towards Bermuda, which is right around here, and we're seeing this trough really get disconnected by this point. Here's the trough, here's Teddy, so that's really something that we have to pay attention to, and this trough is going to pick up Teddy. Now normally Teddy would get picked up with this northwest or this northeast flow, and it would just continue to move out like this. But what's happening with this is this low pressure system is drawing Teddy in, and it's going to make it spin somewhat like this. Now something that we have to pay attention to, what happens if this moves further to the west? Now that's something that I'm really keeping my eye on. If this is somewhere over Indiana and Ohio, which definitely we could see something like that happen, the models definitely go through changes like this all the time, and with all the systems moving on throughout the Atlantic, it can really confuse these models. So if we have some sort of storm out in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, if that's where the low pressure system is, then Teddy would have to kind of get pulled in like this. So depending on where this trough really sets up, that's going to depend on the exact track of Teddy. And then look what happens. This would be by Monday night, September 21st, and we're looking at this storm really getting pulled in. So here's Teddy, here's the low pressure right here. So it's pulling this storm in, and then it's going to kind of do a curve into Nova Scotia and Maine. Now let's look at a couple different models. Here would be the GFS, and where it has its trough of low pressure. Now the GFS has the trough and Teddy kind of merging together and somewhat intensifying Teddy. So they have Teddy as probably a category 4 by this point on the GFS, but the trough is located further to the east, which is a good news if you don't want a landfalling hurricane here. So then if we look at the Canadian model, this is more of a worry, because now this trough is further to the west, and now what's happening is we have this trough southeast of Massachusetts there, and you're looking at Teddy right here, and this is going to barrel into parts of Nova Scotia and Maine, and that's going to cause some serious storm surge and also some very damaging winds. Now let's continue to play this through on the European model. The European model brings this right into the Gulf of Maine, and then kind of right in between Maine and Nova Scotia there. That's where it would have its impact. Now a couple of these models bring this kind of somewhere like this. A couple other models bring this up further, a little bit further to the east, and some of these models even bring this straight out to sea. So we still have a lot of different solutions on where this could form, and I'm gonna start to show you my personal track forecast. So here would let's just finish out this model run. Here would be by the time that Teddy's kind of dying out, it would move out into Labrador in Canada, and it would pretty much just move out. So here would be my personal track for the storm. I'm expecting this to stay pretty much straight northwestward. Bermuda is so small of a target, it's not even on this map, but Bermuda would be somewhere right around here, and then as it passes Bermuda, I do expect some sort of a northward turn, and then I want to leave the entire northeast coast in play because we really don't know what's going to happen with all these storms moving out in the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, in the main development region. All of these storms just moving around is really confusing these models. So if these models are getting confused from that, then potentially we could see a track either further to the west or further to the east. So I just want to leave it in play. So right now, if you live anywhere from pretty much here to here, just pay attention to this storm. Not necessarily be too cautioned by it, but just pay attention to it because you could see some impacts out of it. And I'm assuming this isn't gonna be the only video I make on this storm. Probably I'll do a couple more. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.